The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
We are Rotary, committed heart and soul to build community, dedicated and united.
Greetings and welcome once again to a very special show called Service Matters. It's a weekly radio show that talks about the good things that are happening in local communities and beyond. It talks about good things that people do to make a difference. And in many cases, folks, it makes dreams real for some folks out there that may very well be in need. You're listening to WPRO, the voice of Southern New England. You can hear us on AM 630 or FM 99.7. We are indeed a cumulus station. I'm Dave Clifton, happy to coordinate this particular program, and it's called Learn CPR, It May Save a Life. Yes, it's another hat that I wear. Have for many years teaching for the American Heart Association, and of course teaching also for an organization that's an arm of the American Heart Association. So I would like to say that today we're going to talk about CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And I say that as you watch this, I say to families and people out there that may be watching on ECAT, Easton Community Access Television, I thank them very much for covering our radio show, that learn CPR could save a life. And by taking a course, it can help your family. It could help folks out in your neighborhood. And it could very well help someone out that's at work if, God forbid, someone goes down. One never knows where you're going to be or when it's going to happen. And believe me, folks, it happens when you least expect it. Someone goes into cardiac arrest, what do? Well, certainly we want you to call 911. That's the simple way of getting the emergency rescue team to the scene as soon as possible. And then we want you to do CPR manually. And hopefully when the police and fire arrive on the scene, they will have with them an AED, a non-admitted external defibrillator. My guest today is Jane Desberg. She's from Stoughton, Massachusetts. She has been an active Rotarian, a past president 3 times for the Rotary Club of Sharon, Massachusetts. And she also has worked at the district level, District 7950. And she's been an assistant governor coordinator. And Jane, thank you so much for joining us here in WPRO.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for asking, and also to learn a little bit more about how to save a life.
Your club, a number of years ago, when the AEDs first came out, automated external defibrillators, your club put these in a lot of town buildings and the senior housing so that they could possibly have a course and training on how to use one, and at the same time could possibly save a life. So heads up, and I think that happened as a result of a grant from Rotary District 7950.
Yes, and the club was very happy to be able to put these in the public buildings. And I know one case where at the senior center, the staff used it to save a life. So we're very happy to have it in the different buildings.
So we thought it would be a good idea today to talk about CPR, to encourage folks out there in local communities, whether it be in southeastern New England, or maybe it could be our TV audience here in Bristol and Norfolk counties. So I'm going to give some brief demonstrations. To take a CPR course, folks, it's a 3-hour course. And you can take a course either through the American Heart Association or you can take it with other instructors who sometimes travel around to actually do courses. So I'm going to today give you a demonstration on how to do one-person CPR on an adult, one-person CPR on a small child, one-person CPR on an infant under age 1. A small child would be someone between the ages of 1 to puberty, and of course, an adult would be anybody over the puberty age. It could be senior adults, and of course, you can even do CPR on animals. Sometimes people have pets. So what do you learn when you take a CPR course? You also learn how to do the Heimlich maneuver if you've got a choking scenario in your home or out there somewhere in the community. We teach you how to use an AED, an automated external defibrillator. And believe it or not, these machines have actually saved lives. They come out a number of years ago, and of course, lots of people were concerned that misusing them and shocking someone that didn't need it. Well, when you use this machine, and I'm going to go through a quick demonstration later on in the program, you can't shock anyone that's not in cardiac arrest. And I know that at one time I was, Jane, trying to put these in the schools, and some of the teachers had some concerns. They thought that the student body would run around the school zapping each other. It can't happen, folks. You have to be in cardiac arrest. The only danger zone is when you're pushing the shock button on an AED. You got to make sure that no one touches the victim, because that could zap them. It could stop their heart, and it could throw them for a 10-yard loss, bigger than what I saw in the Patriots game last evening. But Jane, have you ever heard of CPR working?
Yes, I have.
It's something that folks don't realize, that it saves lots of lives. And as an instructor for at least 25 years, how it's changed since the first time I taught a class. Right now, I think we not only have the use of an AED, but we've refined the courses, and now we're teaching it that really makes sense. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration before we take a break. And I'm going to show you exactly what you would do if you had to do one-person CPR on an adult. My first responsibility, if the victim is unconscious, is to make sure that where I'm doing this, that the scene is safe. Number 2, I want to make sure that I call, somebody call 911 to get the emergency rescue team here as soon as possible. Remember, 0 to 4 minutes is clinical death. 6 minutes or more is biological death, or you could call it brain death. My third responsibility is to check the pulse. We're talking about the carotid pulse on either side of the neck. We're talking about checking the pulse 5 to 10 seconds. Believe me, it's going to be closer to 10 than 5 just to find it. Once you check the pulse, the next step now is to do compressions. Years ago, we used to do the ventilations first, followed by the compressions. That has reversed. We now have classes that are strictly hands-on CPR. No breaths, but just doing the compressions in conjunction with the use of an AED. So again, I repeat, if I was starting from the beginning, establish unresponsiveness, take 4 to 10 seconds to shake the victim to see if you get a reaction. If they're not unconscious and they're just sleeping on the beach, they may pop up and say, "What are you doing, Dave?" The fact is, if they're unconscious, you're going to see discoloration in the face. You know there's a problem. Step 2, Call 911. Step 3, check the pulse. Step 4, hand position for doing compressions. Watch exactly what I'm doing when I do the compressions. I got my elbows straight. I would be kneeling beside the victim, getting as close to the victim as I can for being able to do the compressions. But keep in the back of your mind that when you're doing these compressions, you're going to compress down at least 2 inches deep. You're going to count to 30 to keep your mind busy, because you could be doing this act of saving a life to someone very close to you. You can do this CPR even when you're upset. You can do it when you're crying. You can do it in the dark. The fact is, you want to do your compressions first. And it goes like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'm compressing down 2 inches deep. I'm going to do 30 compressions, 2 ventilations, 5 cycles. When I compress on the number, and I put the word "and" in the middle. 1 and 2, and you have to release. Don't take your hands off of the victim. 1 and 2 and 3, up to 30 compressions. Now it's time to do the ventilations. When I do the ventilations, I want to do what I call the head tilt chin lift method. I put the fingers of one hand on the bony part of the chin. I put the heel of my other hand on the forehead, and I tilt the head back. I use the hand that's on the forehead so that I can twist that hand and pinch the nostril. And now I give 2 breaths. Back to my compressions. 30 compressions, 2 ventilations, 5 cycles. And the best news that I can hear or see is that the victim starts to come out of it. They start to breathe. If you got, when you check the pulse, you have a pulse, you don't have to do compressions. It sounds like the victim is coming out of it. So that's a pretty quick demonstration. I just want to show you how you do one-person CPR on the adult. And I'm now going to give you a quick demonstration on how you would do this on a small child, ages 1 to puberty. Basically, it's the same, and I'll show you what the differences are. Take a look at your family at home and decide how you would do this. When would you do CPR? It would be a sudden death scenario. Think about it, folks. A heart attack victim, someone you pull out of a fire. It could be heavy drug overdose. It could be a drowning scenario. It could be electric shock. Those are the times when you would actually do CPR. So if I'm doing this on a small child, I establish unresponsiveness 4 to 10 seconds. Hey, you okay? Step 2, call 911. Get the AED here as soon as possible. Step 3, check the carotid pulse in the neck, small child, 5 to 10 seconds. No pulse, hand position. Here's where it changes between the adult and the small child. Use the heel of one hand. It's still 30 compressions, 2 ventilations, and you still compress down at least 2 inches deep. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 29 and 30. I can count to 30, but in order to keep it brief, I went right to 30. 2 ventilations, head tilt, chin lift, pinch the nostril, 2 breaths, back to your 30 compressions. That's how you would do CPR on a small child. Have you ever done CPR before, Jane?
Not on a victim, just
How
in
about
class.
a choking scenario? When we come back, we're going to talk about the use of an AED, an automated external defibrillator. This is a machine that shocks the victim and brings them back to life. Take it away, Mr. Producer.
If you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, it is important to act fast. Helping to save a life is easier than you might think. You have been performing hands-only CPR on an adult when the AED arrives. You have the victim face up on a firm, flat surface and are ready to continue hands-only CPR with an AED. You must remove all clothes that cover the chest, as AED pads must not be placed over any clothing or jewelry. CPR combined with using an AED, automated external defibrillator, provides the best chance of saving a life. If possible, use an AED every time you provide CPR. AEDs are safe, accurate, and easy to use. Once you turn on the AED, follow the prompts. The AED will check to see if the person needs a shock and will prompt you to deliver a shock if needed or resume CPR. AEDs may have 2 sets of pads. Ensure you use adult pads on anyone who has shown signs of puberty and older. Turn the AED on and follow the prompts, which will tell you everything you need to do. Peel away the backing from the pads. Ensure there is nothing between the pad and the person's bare skin.
Plug in pads connector.
Plug the pads connector into the AED if necessary. Follow the prompts and let the AED analyze.
Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient.
And make sure that no one is touching the person. The AED will analyze the heart rhythm. If the AED tells you that a shock is not needed, resume hands-only CPR.
Shock advised. Charging. Stay clear of patient.
If the AED advises a shock, deliver a shock. Loudly state "clear" and make sure that no one is touching the person. Push the shock button.
Deliver shock now. Deliver shock now. Shock delivered.
Immediately resume hands-only CPR until help arrives or the AED prompts you to pause. You will likely need to repeat several cycles of compressions and shocks.
Begin CPR. Start with compressions.
Follow the prompts from your AED until help arrives. Try not to interrupt compressions for more than 10 seconds and follow the prompts from the AED. Let's hope you never have to use hands-only CPR. But know that CPR combined with using an AED provides the best chance of saving a life. If possible, use an AED every time you provide CPR. Again, if you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, don't be afraid to start hands-only CPR. Remember, call 911 and ask someone to get an AED, then push hard and fast in the center of the chest until the AED and help arrives. Your actions can help save a life.
Welcome back to another segment of Service Matters, an opportunity to talk about good things that are happening in surrounding communities throughout southern New England. And of course, for the folks that may be watching this broadcast on TV, I wanted to be able to show you the demonstrations, but the folks in our radio audience can still hear this and how important this is. And right now, I'd like to talk about the use of an AED. You just saw a video put together by ECSI, Emergency Care and Safety Institute, as well as the American Heart Association. This is what an AED looks like. This is a training tool that I use as an instructor. But there are many AEDs out there. They're a lot more, I should say, inexpensive to buy these now than they were when they first come out. They're like computers. Now, many people have them because they want to make sure that they can save a life. Let me make it very clear to our audience that the first thing that you would do if you approach the victim, you've had appropriate training, is to do CPR manually first. That indicates and dictates whether or not you need the use of an AED. An AED is called automatic external defibrillator. It shocks the heart. It does a terrific job of evaluating the heart rhythm for a victim who may be in cardiac arrest. The American Heart Association and ECSI strongly recommend that once you find out that the victim is in cardiac arrest, then you automatically go to the AED. And the only way you can do that is to do CPR manually. First responsibility when you use the AED is to put the machine on. It has 3 buttons. The green button is the on-off button. The yellow button is the analyze button. And of course, the red button is the shock button. So you push the green button, and it's like a computer. It needs some time to charge up. Eventually, it's going to say, connect the electrode pads. But you'll see a monitor above the buttons. It shows you exactly what the monitor is showing you. It's saying connect the electrode pads. So once you push or connect the electrode pads, I'm going to show you exactly. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to use this machine. Even on the back of the pads, it shows you exactly where they go. One pad goes above the right nipple. The other pad goes below the left armpit. But you have to plug this in. Once you plug this cord in, the machine is going to say analyze.
Push analyze.
You'll see the light is blinking. The yellow light, that means you push that, and that's when you say,
analyzing now. Stand clear.
I'm clear, you're clear, we're all clear, stand back.
Shock advised.
It says shock advised. It's going to take time. Once the light
Stand
blinks,
clear. Push to shock.
stand back, folks. I'm ready to shock.
Push analyze.
And then it'll come back and I'll tell you either to push analyze. It may come back and say continue CPR compressions. It may come back and tell you to check the pulse. That means that the victim is coming out of it. Mm-hmm. Yes, you have to strip the victim from the waist up to put the pads on. And of course, you can crisscross the pads if you so desire. If you made a mistake and you put the left pad above the right nipple and the right pad on the opposite side, it'll do the same job. What happens when it shocks the victim's heart, it goes across the heart from left to right or from right to left. And of course, I have to tell you, these machines have added life to a massive population as a result of using this machine. So I encourage people not only to take a course in CPR, I encourage businesses to make an AED available. They come with a box, and when someone opens the box, an alarm goes off. And of course, these batteries in the AED machines are good for 5 years or 250 shocks. You're not going to get that many shocks, but folks, they save lives, and how important that is. That's why I thank the Rotarians over in that Sharon Club for coming up with the funds to put AEDs in their community so that it can help save a life. And again, as I said earlier, you never know where you're going to be or when it's going to happen, and it happens when you least expect it. The fact is that I'm amazed myself. I've had the opportunity to teach at the Massachusetts Police Academy. All the police officers in the surrounding communities, because of the fact that they have to be trained every year. And they're the ones that respond to a 911 call, as well as fire departments and rescue teams, depending on what community you're in. It doesn't hurt to teach young people how to make the 911 call. And again, I'm going to get back to some other items that we cover in a CPR course. The Heimlich went over. But before I do that, Jane, I did want to ask you, as I take a seat, you have been serving in your club, and not just Rotary, but members of the Lions Club, all community service organizations out there. We thank you and express our appreciation. I know in the town of Easton, big time Lions Club, lots of members and doing lots of things for community service. And we certainly pat President Rob for his active duties here in the Easton community with Lions. But tell us about your club. What are some of the projects they do to help serve?
Yeah, thank you again for having me on the show. One of the things that attracted me to Rotary and attracts a lot of people is the service component, especially what you can do at a local level. And that's one of the things that attracted me to the group. The club is 84 years old. I should say 84 years young. We do a tremendous amount. Our hallmark is known for is our Gifts of Hope, to help out families at the holiday time with gift cards to supermarkets and toys for the kids.
A big thank you to Jane, as well as Rotary District 7950. They are sponsoring a lot of the Service Matters shows during the autumn. And of course, the motto is Service Above Self for Rotary. And of course, the motto for Lions Clubs, we serve. We're going to take another short break. I'm Dave Clifton. You're listening to WPRO, the voice of Southern New England. Hurry back.
There's a storm.
Join me, Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, to explore the town of Easton and its interesting, engaging, ordinary, and extraordinary people, and meet a smorgasbord of guests, including artists, authors, musicians, business owners, community organizations, clergy, local leaders, etc., etc., etc. Community Forum at 3 p.m. on Thursdays and 1:30 p.m. on Saturdays. See you then.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of For the Love of Words.
After a 3-year hiatus, join me, John Holgerson, and
Priscilla Almquist-Olsen
as we interview poets and musicians.
Could you give the audience a little summary of your background as a child?
When I turned 7 or so, we were car bombed. That stuck out.
And have them share their love of words.
Sometimes I wonder, do you ever think of me?
A thin broth of moonlight caught in the trees spreads across the garden brush, so one side of every stick shimmers while the other sides melt into one another, a mass grave of cherry, pear, and pine.
For the Love of Words at 7 p.m. on Thursdays.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, residents of Easton, friends and neighbors. This is Bill Ames, co-host with Priscilla Almquist-Olsen of the Film Connection on ECAT now for over 20 years. We're very proud of that. And we like to interview guests from Easton who have been involved in the film business, actors, producers. We're very fortunate today to have a producer of a film.
Oh, I didn't see you there.
Sick of all the new shows and movies dominating pop culture? Well, have no fear, because Old Time Movie and Old Time TV are here, where we like to add our own flair.
There's a truck out front, and if we could just get the keys...
Man, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? Those are flesh-eating zombies. They upended our car, okay? We're lucky to be alive, especially Joe. I had to pull him out of the trunk, for crying out loud.
It's been a long day.
Also, make sure to check out the Radiocast, our accompanying podcast where we talk about what we've watched.
There was a lot of moments of just Mac on the raft going down the river, just internal monologuing over and over and over.
We show the classics and nothing but the classics. Well, except for the weird ones. Check us out on all our channels as well as our YouTube.
Welcome back to another segment of Service Matters. I'm Dave Clifton. My guest here in the studio is Jane Desberg, a person who was very much into community service. And that's one of the things that we do on this show, Jane. We talk about good things that are happening. And I try to get guests that come on the air that I can thank on behalf of all the communities out there for your service. And you certainly exemplify the spirit of Rotary's motto, service above self. But you're retired, but some of the work that you've done, not just in Sharon, but also Easton, tell us about it.
Okay. Yes, I worked for the Sharon Housing Authority for close to 30 years. When I retired there, I worked in Easton, at Easton Housing part-time for 4 years. And that led up to me, after retiring full-time, to start doing the Meals on Wheels. And I do that once a week in Easton, and I find it very gratifying to visit with, briefly, but visit with all the residents that I visit on a weekly basis, and we get to know each other. The big topic is, of course, is weather. It's been pretty hot this summer, but that's something we always do. But I also want to take a minute and thank Dave. Dave is a longtime Rotarian, over 50 years of service. His dad got him involved originally, and Dave is one of the reasons I became a Rotarian. I've been a Rotarian for 22 years now, and the motto of service above self and being able to do good in the community is really what attracted me and which keeps me still part of the organization.
And I know Jane has a lot of friends at home that are listening to this broadcast. And I'm not just talking about your husband, Paul, but he has all the dogs. What kind of work does he do?
Yeah, I mean, he's retired, but he loves animals. And so, dogs are his passion.
So a big hello out there to all the dogs. Paws in the park. But anyways, I did want to give another quick demonstration as we're talking about CPR today, how to save a life and how important that is to be able to take some training. The American Heart Association, the American National Red Cross, ECSI, Emergency Care and Safety Institute. These are organizations that provide the training and how important that is. You could be sitting at the dinner table during a holiday and all of a sudden someone chokes. Do you know what to do? And so I encourage you to have somebody in the family take a course so you can help each other out and not wait till an emergency takes place. Right now I'm going to give a quick demonstration because it's all part of taking a CPR course, is what do you do if someone chokes? I'm going to teach you how to do the Heimlich maneuver. It's a lot easier to do, folks, than it is to spell. But the fact is, it works. I'm going to ask our producer, Adam Carrero, if he would be my mannequin for the time being, as I demonstrate to our listening and viewing audience how you would actually take care of someone that may be choking. And most important of all, you want to be able to recognize someone that's in a choking scenario. Usually someone that's choking, as he looks at the camera, is someone that's holding their neck. That's a signal that the victim is in trouble. Sometimes people don't hold their neck. They put their hands the other way. They're pointing that something's going on. So he's holding his neck. First thing I'm going to do is to ask him if he's choking. If he says, yes, I think I'm choking, then you say, yes, I think you should sit down. You'll be fine on your own. But if he gives you the nod, yes, he's choking, now you want to get behind the victim, put 1 foot forward and 1 foot back so you can balance his body weight. Because as he continues to choke in the latter stages, he starts to become wobbly, and you have to kind of hold on to his body. The whole secret when you do the Heimlich maneuver, see that circle I'm making? around my stomach area is to put your fist in the middle of that circle, and you're going to go in and up. It's 5 quick upward thrusts. That's going to make that piece of meat that you may be choking on, it's going to make the pressure, the wind is going to force that object to maybe release that piece of meat. So, step number 1, proper footing. Step number 2, proper hand position. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. I put my thumb up near the xiphoid process. That's where the V shape is of your rib cage. Put your baby finger down where you think the belly button is. Point the knuckle of the fist in the middle. And now I'm going to wrap my hands together, and I'm going to give 5 quick upward thrusts. I'm going to go in and up. That's enough to make our producer lean over because he feels like he has to upchuck. 5 quick upward thrusts. I'm just simulating now. Look at the mouth, do 5 more. Look at the mouth, do 5 more. And I got to tell you, folks, in most cases, according to surveys, that the Heimlich maneuver is worked much more than even CPR. The fact is that by doing the Heimlich, years ago, before they had the training, and you didn't do the Heimlich, people didn't know what to do. They told the people to sit down and relax, and they had to call for help. But the fact is, you can start helping the victim before the ambulance arrives. Now, maybe a piece of the meat came out when I did the Heimlich on Adam, but yes, I would encourage the victim to go to the hospital because he may get something else there that didn't come out that may lodge and block the airway. Thank you, Adam, and thank you, by the way, for producing here in the TV studio. And I also thank Brett Ferruccio back at the radio station, WPRO, for him producing our show. Jane, we've been doing this show for about 15 years. And I did a show about a couple of years ago on CPR, and we get a lot of calls about it because people appreciated the training. It's not like having you in person, but folks, if you sit down and look at this, maybe you can pick up a few tips. One tip would be take a course in CPR. I've gone through briefly how you would do one person CPR in an adult, one person CPR in a small child. I gave you a quick demo on how to use an AED, an automated external defibrillator. I gave a review on how to do the Heimlich maneuver if you run into a choking situation. And speaking about choking, if you got, say, a pregnant woman, or it could be an obese man, that you cannot get your arms around them, then I strongly recommend you do the chest thrust. Everybody understand that? I'll repeat it. Do not squeeze a pregnant woman's stomach. That affects the infant, especially if they're showing. Do the chest thrust. And you may find out that you may enlarge that object that she may be choking on. The next demonstration is going to be infant CPR, but we're going to do that after the break. I'm Dave Clifton, my guest here in the studio, Jane Desberg, our producer, Adam Carrero, and of course, you're watching ECAT, Easton Community Access Television, and you're listening to the voice of Southern New England. That's WPRO.
If you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, it is important to act fast. Helping to save a life is easier than you might think. You have been performing hands-only CPR on an adult when the AED arrives. You have the victim face up on a firm, flat surface and are ready to continue hands-only CPR with an AED. You must remove all clothes that cover the chest, as AED pads must not be placed over any clothing or jewelry. CPR combined with using an AED, automated external defibrillator, provides the best chance of saving a life. If possible, use an AED every time you provide CPR. AEDs are safe, accurate, and easy to use. Once you turn on the AED, follow the prompts. The AED will check to see if the person needs a shock and will prompt you to deliver a shock if needed or resume CPR. AEDs may have 2 sets of pads. Ensure you use adult pads on anyone who has shown signs of puberty and older. Turn the AED on and follow the prompts, which will tell you everything you need to do. Peel away the backing from the pads. Ensure there is nothing between the pad and the person's bare skin.
Plug in pads connector.
Plug the pads connector into the AED if necessary. Follow the prompts and let the AED analyze.
Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient.
And make sure that no one is touching the person. The AED will analyze the heart rhythm. If the AED tells you that a shock is not needed, resume hands-only CPR.
Shock advised. Charging. Stay clear of patient.
If the AED advises a shock, deliver a shock. Loudly state "clear" and make sure that no one is touching the person. Push the shock button.
Deliver shock now. Deliver shock now. Shock delivered.
Immediately resume hands-only CPR until help arrives or the AED prompts you to pause. You will likely need to repeat several cycles of compressions and shocks.
Begin CPR. Start with compressions.
Follow the prompts from your AED until help arrives. Try not to interrupt compressions for more than 10 seconds and follow the prompts from the AED. Let's hope you never have to use hands-only CPR. But know that CPR combined with using an AED provides the best chance of saving a life. If possible, use an AED every time you provide CPR. Again, if you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, don't be afraid to start hands-only CPR. Remember, call 911 and ask someone to get an AED, then push hard and fast in the center of the chest until the AED and help arrives. Your actions can help save a life.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of For the Love of Words. After a 3-year hiatus, join me, John Holgerson, and
Priscilla Almquist Olson,
as we interview poets and musicians.
Could you give the audience a little summary of your background as a child?
When I turned 7 or so, we were car bombed. That stuck out.
And have them share their love of words.
Sometimes I wonder, do you ever think of me?
A thin broth of moonlight caught in the trees spreads across the garden brush, so one side of every stick shimmers while the other sides melt into one another, a mass grave of cherry, pear, and pine.
For the Love of Words at 7 p.m. on Thursdays.
In 2023, Easton is a tight-knit community of 25,000 people. But with the hustle and bustle of modern life, it's easy to forget our past. A time when Easton's population was 6,000.
Everybody knew who everybody was.
And there was respect.
There was respect for everyone.
When kids enjoyed great freedom and independence.
Everybody was poor at today's standards, but we all were in the same boat and we enjoyed life.
So join me, Priscilla Almquist Olson, as I explore what makes Easton so very special with some of its lifetime residents.
I think Easton has so much to offer, and if you're living in a community, you have to know it.
Watch Growing Up in Easton Tuesdays at 7 p.m. and Friday at 9 p.m. See you then.
Hello, welcome to Easton News. I'm Abby Kitchenham.
And I'm Jack Ryan, and together we bring you everything you need to know about Easton, including politics.
The annual town election is scheduled for Saturday, April 22nd, 2023.
Community events.
Be Inspired. Counseling presents a parent and child coping workshop centered around a new year and new beginnings.
And sports.
Pressure builds diamonds, so we live by that every day of practice, going into every game.
With APCSM guest segment Pet of the Week.
Hi, I'm Katie with the Animal Protection Center, and today we have a little Iris.
With help from special correspondent Wyatt Fain. Join us
for Easton News.
Playing 6 o'clock Friday, Saturday, and Sundays.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, residents of Easton, friends and neighbors. This is Bill Ames, co-host with Priscilla Almquist-Olsen of the Film Connection. On ECAT now for over 20 years. We're very proud of that. And we like to interview guests from Easton who have been involved in the film business, actors, producers. We're very fortunate today to have a producer of a film.
Welcome back to the final segment of Service Matters. I'm Dave Clifton. Been at WPRO for about 15 years, and most of the time I travel to Providence, but thanks to ECAT, Easton Community Access Television, they forward the show to the radio station, and they have the opportunity to televise the show. And of course, today we're talking about learning CPR. It could save a life. Today, I'm going to also talk about what you would do if you had to do CPR on an infant, and what you would do if you had a choking infant, which is a little different than what you did on the adult, or what you may do on the adult. Now, because the infants are so tiny, you can either do CPR on the floor, you can do it on a table, or you can do it in your arms, as long as you control the head and you have the body in your arm. I prefer to do it on a table because it's much easier to tilt the head back and to do the compressions. When you do compressions on an infant under age 1, think about it. A non-walker, someone in a crib or bassinet. I used to say someone who wet the bed, but adults wet the bed too. So I don't use that anymore. But the fact is that doing it on the table, you can put one hand beneath the head to tilt the head back. When you do your ventilations, you cover the mouth and nose, and you do puffs, not deep staircase breaths. When you do your compressions on the infant, in between both nipples, center of the chest, use your fingers. You don't use the heel of one hand like you did on a small child, ages 1 to puberty. You don't use both hands wrapped together like you do on the adult. So if I were doing CPR, I'm going to do it in my arm for demonstration purposes for the audience. Step number 1 is to establish unresponsiveness. And all you do on the case of an infant, because they're so tiny, is to do a little tickle here and there. Hey, baby, 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 okay? Maybe you touch the toes, the cheek, wiggle the arm. The nicest sound that you can hear from the infant, folks, is the infant crying. That indicates to you they're okay. The next step is to make sure that you call 911. It's easy if you'd have someone else that may be there to call 911. Get the ambulance, let them know that an infant is unconscious or conscious. In this case, the infant is conscious, but they're choking on something. It could be a small piece of pacifier. It could be something that parents, not on purpose, might have left something carelessly in the crib or bassinet, and they're always putting their fist in their mouth. So the next step is to check the pulse. Guess what? It's not the carotid pulse in the neck. The necks are so tiny. It's the brachial pulse in the back of the muscle of either arm. Remember, folks, you got a pulse in your thumb. Use your other fingers, 2 or 3. That's your judgment call. 5 to 10 seconds. No pulse. Finger position. In between both nipples, and you're going to compress down a half to an inch. It's not 2 inches deep, a half to an inch with your fingers. And guess what? It's 30 compressions. It's very consistent. 30 compressions, 2 ventilations on the adult, the small child, and now the infant under age 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Let's assume I got to 30. My next step is to do 2 breaths. As I said to you before, put your mouth over the infant's mouth and nose with the head tilted back, because the most common cause of clogging the airway is your tongue. And if you don't have the head tilted back, your tongue clogs the airway. So tilt the head back, cover the mouth and nose, and give 2 puffs. Back to your compressions. Again, I prefer to do it on the table. When you do CPR on an adult and small child, it should be on a hard, flat, firm surface. That's going to get you better results. Does it work all the time, folks? No, it doesn't. But I'll tell you, there are many more lives being saved today because of the training, because of people understanding how to teach it and how to do it, and because of the progress we've made as a result of what's going on around the world. There's a new form of CPR that's being developed that eliminates breaths. I have to say to you, and this is important, folks, try not to put your mouth over the victim's mouth. Try to use a mask. If you have an AED machine, the AED has a mask in it. It's a mask that protects you from all the crazy diseases that are going on around the world. You certainly jump in to save someone's life, but you don't want to catch any disease, especially if you don't know them. Do the best you can. If I had to do this on a grandchild, I wouldn't hesitate at all of doing it because they're my family. The fact is that you may not know the other people on the street. Your idea is to help. You can be a big help by calling 911. You can be a big help by doing compressions, hands on only, just by doing compressions and not the ventilations. It certainly helps when you can do both. It helps even more if you can use an AED, an automated external defibrillator. So that's a brief demonstration as a CPR instructor for many years, and having had the opportunity to teach at the police academy, people that need to know. And that's basically what I'm doing today as part of a healthcare provider course. But they have shorter courses, not 3 hours, that you can do a different kind of course. We're going to wrap up this show. Jane, I want to thank you so much for joining us here as we learn how to save a life today.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. I certainly learned a lot about CPR and Heimlich, and also just to keep that in mind.
This broadcast, thank you, Jane, this broadcast and cablecast, I want to present a gift to Jane Desberg for being our guest today, and that should provide a couple laughs for you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dave.
I say to all of our folks out there, go forth to serve, do it with a smile on your face. And if you're going to do something good to help someone out, do it with the dignity that it deserves. And again, a reminder, this was a brief discussion about CPR today. It's not a course, but at least it gives you an idea how important it is to save someone's life. Learn CPR. It could very well save someone very close to you in the days, the months, and the years ahead. Thank you for joining us. Have a good weekend.
We are Rotary, committed heart and soul to build community, dedicated and united.